I've long wondered if some psychics secretly work with the police. From the people we've talked to, no one has come forward with this information until I was able to talk with Kathy, a medium who lives in the States. Join us as we get to know Kathy's journey into mediumship, the obstacles she had to overcome to accept her gift, and the different times she's used her abilities to help people. Enjoy. So I'm Nick. I'm the one who got in touch with you on Reddit. We started this podcast because, of course, we have this interest in the paranormal. Well, of course, it started out with by being scared of ghosts and the devil and all that stuff. And eventually, when we started to talk to people who had experiences and had abilities similar to you, we realized that it was much deeper than what we thought it was. And I'm sure the stories you might tell us will again open our eyes to different things over there in your side of the world. So, would you mind telling us how did it start for you? How at what age did you realize you had this ability?
Um, well, I was about 2 years old, and with the gift, it actually runs in families.
Yes.
And my grandma was a medium. She knew that, like, if one of her kids were going to get in a car accident, she knew that it was going to happen. So she'd tell them, she'd say, be careful tonight. You can end, I'm worried about you getting into an accident or, accidentally crashing your car and stuff. And they'd be like, oh, Ma, don't worry about it. And we'll be fine. And sure enough, that night they ended up going in the ditch or, getting into an accident.
Yes.
Um, but now with me, when I was 2 years old, we're all going to go to Dairy Queen, and my mom put me in the car, and I was screaming my head off, and the minute she took me out of the car, it was fine. So then finally, my mom was like, "Okay, well, if I can't go, then if Kay can't go, then nobody else can go." And of course, my cousins and my sisters were mad at me. But anyways, my aunt decided to go ahead and go to Dairy Queen, and either on the way there or on the way back, her car actually hit a gravel pit and flipped. And they had contacted the police, and when they contacted the police said if any of those kids would have been in that back seat, they would have been killed.
Mm-mm.
So right then and there, my mom knew that I had the gift that my grandma had.
Yes.
So she knew, and she used to always call me a freaky kid when I was little because I did kind of scare her. I knew things before they were going to happen. I would see spirits and I would say their names and I would talk about them. And, my mom I kind of scared my mom, I guess.
So, so I know the situation is a bit same for you as well. I'm not sure if I remember right. You mentioned in Reddit that your daughter also has the gift.
Yeah, she has the gift. But the thing, like the type of gift that I have, I can do readings. I can help the police with murder cases. But the thing is that, it's like the gift will start out small and then it'll get, bigger and bigger and bigger and start expanding more. So I think that the gift that she has is she's pretty much underdeveloped with it at this point. And she does have high functioning autism and cognitive problems. So I mean, I don't know if she would ever get to the doing the readings like I can or talking to the police about the murder victims, but she can see spirits and she can hear spirits too.
So for you, it's something. Is it? Would you mind telling us the range? Because I'll just give a brief background for the people we've talked to in the Philippines. Abilities range to different skills. Let's call them skills, but they're technically senses. For Sam, he could see and talk to them. Some people have the ability for precognition. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but you could see things before they happen.
Right. Premonitions, yeah. I think, like the best way to explain it is, my husband always says the dead are us. Basically in any place in this world or, in any country, is if there is living, then there's also the dead. and there's also the spirits. So I mean, no matter where we go, even in the ocean or sky, I'm sure that we could actually encounter spirits. It depends on where they passed or if they've moved on. The dead are us. I mean, anywhere there's life, there's also death. So
So you opened it up. You mentioned, of course, there are spirits in the sea, there are spirits in the sky. Do you believe or have you experienced elementals? Because as I was doing my research on Wisconsin, it's a pretty strange state because there are a lot of cryptids. Are you familiar with the term cryptids? There are a lot of creatures.
yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot of strange things here. They say that Wisconsin's actually one of the most haunted states.
Yes.
And but part of it too, and I am one too, is there's a lot of natives in this state. I'm
Yeah.
part of the Menominee tribe.
Yeah.
Okay, the natives are very spiritual people. They're very much in contact with the spirits. And see, I think that's where I might have even gotten part of my gift too, because my grandpa, which he was native, he could look into people's eyes and he could tell, if they're good or bad, or if they were female, if they were pregnant. He could tell a lot of things by their eyes. But then my grandma, which was his wife, then she knew, if something was going to happen. Why I have the gift so strong, I have no clue. Because my sisters don't have it, my parents don't have it that strong. Um, I did find out that I was a trance medium though by accident. So, I just, well, because what it was is like a lot of these mediums, they always talk about light and love and beautiful, the other side's beautiful, which it is. But the thing is, and I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with me? Why am I seeing people kill other people in my head? Or why am I seeing dark spirits? And also, but what it is that, um, I found out that I was a trans medium, like I said, kind of the hard way. And, but with the trans medium, what it is we can actually see both levels. We can see the upper level and we can see the lower level. A lot of mediums can only see the upper level, the heaven and stuff, but we can actually see both. Yeah, well, I mean, you wouldn't mind, but I'd like to share with you why
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
found out I was a trans medium. Well, because what was so weird, like, okay, now my daughter and even my niece, both of them, I would call it, they go into a zone. I call it the zone. And then my husband would keep saying that I go into the zone. And I couldn't figure out what he meant by the zone. A couple of years ago, we had moved to the place we live now. Or we moved here about 5 years ago. But what it was is a woman was killed and her body was dumped next to our place 2 years before we moved here, and I didn't know this girl at all. I never met her in life, so I had no clue who she was. The only problem is that she basically homed in on me. I would, sometimes I would be sitting at the kitchen table. I could see her standing by my door. I would go somewhere. I'd come back and I could actually see her standing. Well, she's deceased just because she was murdered, but I could see her standing, in my front door. And then my daughter and I walked down this road where they actually found her body. And, when I was walking, all of a sudden I felt like really angry and, what is going on? It was almost like something was trying to take over. And I was just like, then I started pleasing the blood of Jesus over me. And I'm like, whoa, I got to get out of here. I don't know what's going on. Then I came home and that night I started having visions and she showed me how she died and who killed her and like pictures of who killed her, and I saw the images kind of like step by step, but it was like broken up. It wasn't like I'd see going on the right side of the room, left side of the room. Yeah, seeing the step by step. But the thing is, I was just kind of like, okay, I don't want to deal with this right now, and I'd see her in the backyard or my backyard a lot, and then I would try to avoid the backyard. I'm like, okay, I can't handle this. Then my sister came over and she said, she said, why don't we go sit on the picnic table? I'm like, no, I don't want to go back there, And then I ended up getting scratched back there, all this stuff. So that I told my sister what had happened and stuff, and She said, "Oh," she goes, "I heard about that case," and she said, "No, why don't you tell the police? You really need to help them, and you need to help that girl, and you need to help the family, you know." And so then finally, I ran into a police officer, and I was telling him what happened, and he wanted me come down there, and I was in the interrogation room kind of thing, and I was telling this female police officer about what had happened, that that when I came here, she kind of zoomed in on me or homed in on me. But they always say that a lot of times with the medium, that the spirits are in darkness and we're actually that light, so the spirits will actually follow the light. That's why she homed in on me, I guess. So when I was in the interrogation room, I was talking to the police officer, and we were sitting down and we were talking, and she actually had paranormal experiences too,
Okay.
and we're talking back and forth, and I all of a sudden, one minute I remember saying uh-huh, the next minute my head went to the side and I had absolutely no control. My whole body was locked right up, no control. And then I put my head down and then I started channeling this girl.
She started talking through you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I could see her just as clear as day, and then, because my daughter is epileptic, I thought, okay, is this a seizure or something physical going on? But the thing is that if it was epilepsy, I wouldn't be able to remember anything. If you have a seizure, you cannot remember anything during the seizure. Well, I remember everything. I remember what the police officer, I remember her shoulders and her arms, and I remember the table, and I remember the spirit I'm channeling, and it was just so bizarre. And I'm like, you know what? I'm a trance medium too. So, and trance mediums are actually the strongest mediums out there, and they can be helpful to the police.
Yes, and that you were helpful.
I hope so. The case isn't solved yet, but I hope so. Because I do want the families to have closure. But the thing is, after I told the police about, the spirit that was hanging around me and showed me everything that happened, she left me alone. But she told me to tell the police, and so I did. And after that, I didn't see her, which was great. But she followed me around for a year, So, but that's the thing. I mean, a lot of spirits, the reason why they don't want to cross over is some of them they don't know they're dead,
Mm,
or
yes.
some of them have unfinished business. The thing is a lot of times the living will not get any peace until somebody crosses that spirit over, and that's another thing that I have dealt with too. A lot of times I would actually see spirits, and then they would be in darkness, and I'd be like, "Whoa, you're not where you're supposed to be,"
Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm.
And so then I would say, you need to go to the light, and I said, you're dead, and you have to go to the light. And then a lot of times, I would say, because a lot of times they'd be worried about crossing over, and I'd say, well, then you need to ask, our Creator for forgiveness. And I said, and then I'd see a light open up, and then I'd see them go through this light, and then I would see like a crowd of people, and then at least one family member would run and embrace them, and then all of a sudden it looked like the kind of like the door closed, and then it was like pitch dark, and then I actually can feel a relief when I see them, when I see that door close, because then I know that they're where they're supposed to be.
This is again this is the same to varying degrees the same stories. The people who we've talked to, maybe two or three people who help actually. There's this woman who started this in the 1980s, I think, or the late 1985. She started. She had a mentor also, who taught her how to cross spirits over, and they do it wholesale. They go to an area which is supposedly very haunted. I'm not sure if you do this also. They create like a protection ring, a ring of protection around them. There may be 5 or 7 people, and then they channel and they attract all these spirits and tell them one by one to cross over. It's something they do wholesale because they go to an area and just help lost souls in that area. I'm not sure if you've experienced something like that.
No, well, I mean, usually I don't. How they always say, usually you don't go looking for trouble.
Yeah.
Usually I don't go, go to them. But I'll admit there's times that I'll see like these paranormal shows, and then they'll hear about that there was a woman, she committed suicide or hung herself or something, and then everybody's saying it's haunted, and then they'll go in with they call them like EVPs, or like little radio devices that pick up the spirit of the woman, or her voice, or or her energy and things like that. And in the back of my mind, because I mean, spirits, I mean, like I said, the dead are us. They still, spirits still have the same feelings and emotions that we do. And they're sad. They're, what I mean? And there's a lot of times when they go into these paranormal places, or these places that they're supposed to be haunted, and they'll try to record them and things like that. In the back of my mind, I keep thinking, I just kind of wish that somebody'd go in there and just, try and cross these poor spirits over, because I would not, I mean, we all take they call it dirt nap,
Yeah.
we all, we all die, and it's like, I hope that anybody I loved or cared about or whatever, I sure won't want them stuck somewhere. I want them to go where they are supposed to go. And so, yeah, sometimes when I watch those paranormal movies, I'm just like, why can't you just cross
Yeah.
these people over and let them have some rest and peace? I feel bad for them.
They're used as entertainment, actually. You don't really help them, you just entertain your.
Pretty much, yeah. But I mean, I understand too, because actually, a lot of times, the spirits that are attached to a lot of earthly things, even if they're there, and haunting and da da da, a lot of times they don't want to let those earthly things go. So even if you try and cross them, they're not going to go. No, they want their stuff. They want their nice this and nice that they had on Earth. They're too attached to it.
I'm not sure if you've heard about this. The last person we talked to, he was an exorcist, and he's told us that apparently, if you go to a bank, you'll see a lot of spirits inside the bank, and apparently inside the vault, because a lot of people are attached to their money. Have you seen? Yeah, have you seen? Have you seen spirits in the bank? I mean, you see spirits everywhere, but in a bank, particularly, a lot of spirits there.
Well, I can feel like you. Yeah. Well, I can feel being watched, or I can feel, and it's kind of like everywhere I go, I can feel spirits.
Yeah.
Like, well, like when my husband and I, we've been almost married for almost like 30 years now, or together and married almost 30 years. And it's like when we would move into a place, because we were military and traveling a lot of places,
Mhm.
we move into a place, before I actually accepted my gift fully. Because the thing is, like, I was raised to a Catholic. I was raised that, you don't talk to any, you don't talk
Yes.
to any spirits. You only talk to our Creator, and if you talk to any spirits, you're talking to dark spirits, and don't, you try to shove them away and stuff like that. But the only thing is, the more I prayed, the stronger they came in. So,
Yeah.
and the more I think I was opening that spiritual door, before I fully accepted the gift and things like that, different places we would move, everywhere I go, I'd hear spirit talking to me or banging or something. And then I'd be like, I want to move. This place is haunted. I want to get out of here. And then my husband's like, everywhere you go, there's spirits. So no matter where we go, it's always going to be haunted, And so then, when I started taking control of the gift, and, it kind of like in a lot of ways, I had to take control of the spirits. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to bed and you're going to leave me alone. I mean, things like that, pretty much anywhere I go, they're there.
This reminds me of another funny story. A person we talked to who, again, grew up with this gift. He had this, he would say, it's called a righteous anger. Whenever he would see, let's say he's at home and then he's doing something, and then he would see a spirit walking down the steps. He would get angry na, not now. I will talk to you soon, but not now, okay? He would go like that, and the spirit would slink back slowly out, going out.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's times too that the spirit would be homing on me and talking to me and kind of like bugging me and you, I'm here and stuff. I would literally walk away. I'm like, I can't help you right now, and I ain't gonna talk to you right now. And people are gonna think I'm crazy and just go away,
Mhm.
And I'd be looking to get away from it, So
Have you had particularly a scary experience with regards to spirits?
oh sure, I we had a poltergeist in our house when we were kids. It was kind of like my gift was kind of a curse at that time, because what it is, my mom had a friend. well, my mom and dad were building onto their house, and because there was like four of us, so we needed more bedrooms, you know. Well, there's
Mm-hmm.
six of us all together, my mom and dad. But so, anyways, they were building onto the building an addition on our house. My mom had a friend named and had these bunk beds. Okay, but here's the deal: this house was always haunted. The story to that was there's these little girls that had died of diphtheria, or basically the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
And these girls, they even buried them on the same property, and they have gravestones when you go by the trees and stuff. But my mom had asked if she could buy the bunk beds from her so that we could put them into our addition. Well, the thing is, though, is that when you buy stuff from a haunted property, you bring those problems with you. You know, right after we got the bunk beds from the haunted house, like radios start turning on, TV start turning on, you know, all this paranormal activity. You know, I don't know if it's because of my gift that I believe it's a poltergeist, that he felt threatened by me because I had this gift. But anyways, a lot of times 5 o'clock in the morning, I would wake up and it felt like he was choking me. You know, and then I would have to pray, you know, on our creator, and I would have to say, you know, I need your help. I need your help, you know, and then I jump up and I go turn on the light. But yeah, I mean, this poltergeist too, it would actually take form of me. You know, one time I had to go leave to babysit, and then my mom and my sister came home, and the door was locked. And now, you know, 30 years, 40 years ago, we never locked our doors because we didn't have any crime problem. Well, anyways, so my sister had knocked on the door, and she said, you know, let me in. And she heard my voice and sounded like my footsteps come from my bedroom, run to the door, and then nothing happened. The door never opened,
Mm-hmm.
and she was mad. She was like, "Why aren't you opening the door?" And so then she had to basically break into, you know, our own house, you know,
Yeah.
but she had to go through the side doors, you know. So yeah, she was not happy. But the thing is, when I came home a couple hours later, she was a little scared, you know, like, what in the world? You know, I know I heard your voice, and I heard your footsteps and coming from your room. So yeah, I mean, whatever this poltergeist was, it took like a special interest in me. You know, my other sisters too. I mean, it's approached my other sister and things like that, or you know, it would kind of mimic like my dad, you know, walking around in the kitchen or things. Like would he clear his throat, you know, and this
Yeah.
thing would do the same thing, you know. But you know, the thing is that you know, being attacked like that night after night for probably 5 6 years,
Wow.
I don't know how I survived it for one, but
Yeah.
I mean my faith, you know. But besides that, I have been damaged from it. I cannot sleep at night without a light on. A lot of times it's hard to sleep alone, you know. So because it kept going after me and things like that. So yeah, and it followed me from place to place that we moved. You know,
Ah,
it
It followed. Okay.
followed, sure. But I mean, the thing is, it seems like, you know, once I got with my husband, it didn't try to do the nightly choking me, but, you know, it's just like at night, if somebody turns the light off, it'll bother me. It'll try to bug me again.
Have you tried talking to it and making it move, go to the light?
It's kind of like, well, I don't think this thing would go to the light. This thing seems like it came from the darkness, you
Oh,
know.
okay. 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 Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't think it was like a human spirit at one time, you know, because I don't feel any human emotions off it or any human energy or anything like that. So, but you know, I've come to peace with it. You know, I've forgiven it so that it can't keep, you know, bothering me. I think that my energy or my strength has made it where it has to stay away, you know, stay at bay.
Actually, very funny. I actually experienced the same thing. I was actually, same experience of someone literally mimicking me. But the only difference between what you experienced with mine and mine is that I literally saw someone
Yeah.
mimicking me.
So he lived with a group of friends
Yeah.
as interns, and they lived in one house. He felt that someone was mimicking him and literally looking like him. And it came to a point that he came home, he got home with his friends, and when they opened the door, he saw himself
Yeah.
talking to this girl.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, what was kind of funny about the, like with this paranormal, with the poltergeist, we would all tell my dad, we'd be like, hey,
Yeah.
there's activity going on here, and this is what was said and what was done, and blah blah blah, and then my dad would laugh at us, and oh, you guys are all crazy and la la la, and the thing is though, I mean, we all grew up and moved away, and then him and my mom had separated, he was coming up from the basement steps because this thing actually did kind of keep returning, to him also. You know what I mean? Like it still kind of stayed in the, well, I mean, it's a spirit, it can go anywhere,
Yeah.
So one time he was coming up from the basement steps and he had stopped and this thing had actually taken form of my mom,
Mm-mm.
looked exactly like my mother. And he said this thing actually stopped, looked at him, glared at him, and went up the steps, opened the front door, and walked through the front door. And he looked around for my mom's car, and my mom's car was not there. So it was not of this earth. So
Eventually he believed you.
oh yeah, well yeah, he called my aunt and he was shaking and I can't believe what I saw. But I mean, he still stayed there. I mean, he just kind of blew it off, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I want to ask you this again. You can choose not to answer if you don't prefer. A lot of people who we talk to who have these gifts also. Some of them have what they call spirit guides. So these spirit guides range from actual spirits to otherworldly spirits. So do you have you experienced, or do you have like guides who tell you what to do and help you with life in general?
yeah, and they drive me nuts. They drive me absolutely bonkers. It's just like it feels like it's a parent. Both my parents have passed on, but
Yeah.
it feels like it's a parent. I mean, the thing is, I can see a lot of things from on the other side, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the thing is though is that I don't always know what I'm supposed to say or what I'm not supposed to say. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
And a lot of times, if I say things, that I wasn't supposed to say, or think, because the other side's got a lot of rules and they're very kind of secretive and closed door, and they don't, they withhold a lot of things from us. But anyway, so there's a lot of things that I see from the other side, that it helps me. It makes sense, but it's something that the average person's not supposed to really know
Mm-hmm.
or wouldn't be able to grasp.
Yeah.
And then if I accidentally let anything slip, I've got my spirit guide just like constantly nagging me, oh, you weren't supposed to say that and don't say that and blah 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 and da da da, and it's like don't ever say that again, and then I'd be like whatever, and he go, well, I can take your gift away, and if you don't behave, and all right, okay, fine, what I mean? But they drive me crazy. I mean, I get it. They're trying to guide you and protect you and things like that. But I mean, mine really nags. It's like, you know, oof. I feel like I got a dad hanging around here. I don't know. So,
But they do guide you. I mean, they
oh
help you.
sure,
Yeah. Mm.
oh sure. They'll tell me no, don't do this or do that, or what I mean. They are there, and I do feel like there's a couple of them. And actually, I do see I've noticed like a female one, but then I also got this grouchy male one.
Yeah.
So I'd rather talk to the woman. I'm telling you on that one.
Yeah.
But what I mean? She's nice. The other one's kind of a grump. But the thing is, my type of personality though is like I'm very high energy and stuff, and I kind of need somebody to kind of go chill out. So I can see why I got the grumpier one.
We talked to this girl in Amsterdam, and she had a very protective and grumpy female also, and she would tell us that spirit would protect her uh, uh, to a point that other mediums would get threatened when they do something she
Wow.
doesn't like. So
Oh
that's funny
yeah.
that you have that grumpy man, old man.
Yeah. Well, because I even heard this grumpy spirit guide saying, "You're one of the hardest people I've ever had to guide." And it's like, yeah, because I don't listen. Like
Yeah.
he'll say, "Do this, do that," and I'll just la la la. I just ignore it. I'm in my world. So yeah, I guess I got mad that day. So
Can I ask this again? This again connects to another story of another medium or another ability person. She said she encountered this again, a grumpy. She couldn't say it's a guy or a girl, but it's a grumpy person and a grumpy spirit. But she said it was like a time spirit. It would go into her and show her a stream of time and show her not to how to manipulate time, but it would show her these things that she could not comprehend because she's like, what time? Time? Is that similar to the old guy or no?
um, well, because I think like with the spirit guides, like when we're talking about the grumpy spirit guides and stuff, I think what happens is that a lot of times the spirit guides, I don't know, some mediums say no, actually, spirit guides have lived lives before. And what it is that when, even if you leave your body, once and you transition into a spirit, you still carry the same personality you
Yes.
had on this earth.
Mm-mm.
And I think that, with this grumpy guy there, I think that was his personality on Earth. And then the female that I noticed, it's her personality when she was on Earth too. So I think that's why they're like that. Yeah, I don't know if I think I kind of, but it's kind of my type of personality. I actually think that I astroplane more than what I realized, and I think my spirit guides got to keep up. Like
Yeah.
usually I don't see. He doesn't usually. Well, he might be the one showing me things, but I just know that a lot of times, I'll be in my bed one minute and boom, I'm, in totally another place, and I'll be seeing different things and but there's times, that I'll wake up and I'll be hearing these full conversations in my head, and it does sound like, like not conversations but full talking in my head, like in just like you and I are talking. So, my spirit guide probably is actually talking, and feeding the information to me, because what's kind of weird is it seems like with me, even though, my mom's whole kind of, not the whole side of the family, but a lot of people in my mom's side of the family are mediums, and some of them do the paranormal, they go into houses and stuff. And then I have another medium that she does the readings as a profession and stuff. Even though I was, that side of the family is all mediums, I still had to learn almost everything on my own.
So no one was there to guide you. You didn't ask for, yeah.
Nope. I pretty much had to learn everything on my own. I had to figure out everything on my own, and if it made sense, I was like, okay, that's great,
Yes.
So
I wish that there's actually like a booklet or a
Yeah.
handout of how to do this and navigate through your childhood with this kind of gift.
Yes, because Sam kept, well, mostly kept it to himself and to friends because here in the Philippines, same as you, we grew up Catholic. Most of the Philippines is Catholic, and any sign of something, a gift like this, and you would be branded as either crazy or you have gifts from the devil, from evil spirits. Yeah. So
yep. Oh, sure. It's kind of the same way here. I mean, like, with us growing up Catholic, like I said, they always tell me the only one that I can talk to is God, and if you talk to anybody else, then you're talking to the devil. And then, like, too, like a lot of people, they'll sit there and act like you're crazy too, and it's same thing here, and actually, excuse me, like my second sister there, she like growing up, I would be talking about a lot of these spirits that I'm seeing, and my second sister, her kids, they're actually kind of clairvoyant themselves, so they kind of understood what I was saying. Second sister there, she was like totally like, oh, talking goofy again, and oh, I don't see anything, and I don't see any ghosts, and blah blah blah. Well, the thing is that my grandma had passed on, and she bought my grandma's place, and she had rented it out to renters. But I mean, like, my sister, she didn't believe that I had the gift until like 3 4 years ago, and I'm in my 50s now, and what turned her into a believer is because she was telling me, she said she had rented out her grandma's house, and then once she had rented out, she said she started having like really like nightmares or like strange dreams, and like she'd have like sleep paralysis, and she said that she'd be dreaming that she was at her grandma's house, and then she would go up the stairs, and then the window would go wide open, and the curtains would fly, almost like the spirit was saying somebody's got to leave, And I told my sister, I said, hey, I said, what the deal is. I said, that's grandma. I said, she doesn't like the renters you have in there. And I said, she's mad that they're there. And I said, she's telling you that she's not happy about it. So, because the renters, it was, I guess there are different things like drugs, and they got in trouble and things like that. My grandma was very Catholic, very, really strict, and so my sister got the renters out of there, So then she offlined me, and she said, I'm a believer now. And she said, once I got the renters, I know I laughed,
Yeah.
but she said, once I got the renters out of there, she said, it's peaceful there. She said her nightmares have stopped, and she said, she's a believer now. But it was just kind of funny because when she emailed, she's like, "Well, I'm a believer now." I'm like, "Ha ha ha!" I'm like, "I told you, Mel. I told you, Grandma didn't like these people in that house. They're doing drugs, and but yeah, basically in the dream, she was basically saying, open that window, like ship them on out, But so now she's a believer now, and she would always tell me I was talking goofy and things like that.
Yeah, that would bring a contrast actually how she supported her children having these gifts and you supporting. I'd like to ask you, we had another guest, a mother. She could actually she also, similar to you, she had gifts also, but she could only see spirits. She see and talk also. She actually reached out to us because her children were seeing also. Were seeing things. They would wake up in the middle of the night. Her eldest daughter would wake up screaming and say, "He's coming for me! He's coming for me!" And she knew there was something there. She wouldn't look, and she'd get her child, and they'd go to the bathroom and lock it. So I'm not sure, you having brought up a daughter with an ability. How did you do it? How did you deal with her gift?
Her gift, basically, and kind of what my actually, I mean, I went through a bad spell. Because like when my husband and I were in the military, my gift had gotten even bigger. Like open, and like if I would go stand next to if I'd be standing there talking to somebody, then I could actually see another spirit, or the loved ones that passed on next to them. And then sometimes they'd try to talk to me. Well, then it was almost like I was trying to talk to the person that's alive, and then the family members trying to talk to me at the same time. But it seemed like it was getting too much for me, because I mean I probably was like a they probably thought I was what they call ditzy or whatever, just because, or scatterbrain, because I couldn't seem to stay focused on the physical person. A lot of places I would go, I would have that going on, and then a lot of times I would just start to kind of like shut myself in, to the house, and I wouldn't go out and talk or whatever. And my husband finally was just like, "You have to stop this." He said, "You can't be afraid of them." He said, "Don't fear them." He said, "The dead are us." He said, you have to get out there, and you have to, you can't keep trying to hide from the world, but he said the biggest thing was don't fear them. He said you need to face them, and he's like, "I mean it," and I started doing that. If the spirits would start come, because like I said, it really, when I hit my 30s is when it was really intense, and it was like overwhelming at first, and now, because like I would have spirits looking at me like face to face. When I'd be trying to lay down and go to sleep, I'd have my eyes closed, and then I'd open my eyes and they are face to face with me. And then I'd be like, great. So then I close my eyes thinking that they're going to go away, and then I'd open my eyes again. Well, they're there again, it's like, what do I do? Finally, I was just like, okay, like I'd open my eyes there again, and I'd be like, all right, well, what do you want? You know what I mean? Just bothering me. What do you want here? And a lot of times it was they were trapped or they needed something or whatever. So, but like I said, the biggest thing is not to fear it, because they actually, there's not all good spirits, and the dark spirits will actually, they'll thrive on that fear. It gives them more energy to manifest, more energy to cause more problems. But I think the don't fear them and take control. You have to tell the spirits, okay, you're annoying. You have
Yeah.
to you talk to the spirits like you do
A
people
normal
that are
person.
alive.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they'll follow, they listen. So, but yeah, and as a child, one thing you do too is, like, when that child is telling you, hey, this is going on and that is going on and this is happening, listen to them and believe them. And what I mean, because the thing is, if that child is not being believed,
Yes.
that is the worst feeling that you're going to ever have. Because what I mean, because how do you feel if people don't believe you? It's going to hurt their feelings, and it can cause other problems. The kids are like, well, why do I even bother saying anything?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, just don't fear them, control the spirits, and just believe your child. It's the best you can do. And like you said, you have to try to cleanse the room. But the thing is too, is like children and animals, they're very clairvoyant, because basically because they're innocent. They don't have the clutter of the world coming into their minds. They're very innocent. They don't have people telling them that that's not standing there.
Do you believe in using for protection using different elements? Meaning, we learned from another practicing medium or a psychic to use salt and black tourmaline and different crystals to help protect your place. Do you do that, or you just use, I mean, the light to protect yourself?
I pretty much use a light to protect myself, but I know what you're talking about with the salt. They say a lot of times if your house is haunted, and
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of times, putting like a ring of salt around you can actually protect you from dark spirits. I do love crystals, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and so I do wear crystals a lot, and I know there's different, like there's I think they call it like, I could be wrong, but it's like a black stone
Yeah. Black
crystal. It's
tourmaline.
supposed,
It's a black
yeah, it's
tourmaline. Yeah.
supposed to absorb energy. Like with the crystals too, I think a lot of times you put them by the moon and absorb the moon's energy and stuff. I know that during the moon, when the moon is going on, um, I'm a lot more clairvoyant.
Mm.
I feel like my spirit body is actually rising, and then it almost feels like I'm looking out four eyes instead of two, and then it's like I gotta kind of like physically bring my spirit body
Yeah.
back down. But
Yes.
but I notice I'm a lot more jumpy around the full moon, more clairvoyant. I'm seeing more things. It seems like the moon is kind of opening up seems to open up the door more to the spirit world for me.
Mm. Maybe that's your connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the full moon too. So you know,
I heard from the again from that medium psychic we talked to. In Sedona, they have this like a mineral fair or a gem fair, and she goes there regularly. I think every year, not now because of COVID, but she goes there every year to recharge and to see which crystals she could bring back. And I'm not sure if that would interest you, but it's in Sedona. I think they have. I think psychics also go there for to get their supplies for
yeah.
protection.
I've tried different crystals, but like I said, I guess my faith is the main thing, because it's helped me through all the way. But like I said, I do love crystals and things like that. Matter of fact, we're talking about fairs. We had a psychic fair here. There's like maybe 10 miles away from here. It was kind of weird. Speaking of spirit guides, too, I had the spirit guide nagging me to go to the psychic fair, right? And I'm just like, I really, I don't, I know I'm clairvoyant, and but I don't really know if I want to go. What's kind of weird is that I had decided to go to the psychic fair, and there was like five different psychics. And so then, but the thing is, I picked this one psychic, and so I because I just wanted to see how they work and what they do, and because like like a lot of mediums, they got their own thing going on, And so then I picked this one medium. I sat down across from her, and she was telling me, she said, I could tell there's something very special about you. And then I said, yeah, I said, I'm a medium. And she goes, well, then what are you doing here? She goes, I can't tell you anything new. Well, come to find out, this medium was actually my cousin. And we ended up talking for like 45 minutes,
Yeah.
but it was kind of cool. And like I said, I had no idea that we were related, but we clicked, and because we were only supposed to talk for 15 minutes, and we talked for 45. But yeah, it was kind of cool. So, and what's kind of weird is that I picked up her grandfather standing between her and I could see that he was in a log cabin home. What was kind of weird though is it seemed like I could actually the picture of it wasn't a picture because he was actually moving around in the kitchen part in this log cabin, but it looked really clear. So I mean, like, her and I's energy or auras must have really lit up the picture, because I was like, wow, I have never seen spirits that that bright before, that intense. Or the picture came in real clear.
So was that grandfather still alive, or
No, he passed.
he
He
passed
lived in a
already?
log cabin.
Mm.
And I don't know if he was our grandfather combined, because well, my grandma had like 15 kids in her family, so yeah, they were busy here. It's like
Yeah.
I've got cousins everywhere, so
Yeah.
so
To that point, apparently, when psychics and ability people converge, your gifts are enhanced also. That would be the case for your cousin, that because you were together and again you had that blood tie, probably it made your sight amplified.
mhm.
Do you also, when you get readings, I just want to know, do you also get the images just come to your head? I mean, suddenly you get words, you get feelings, you get emotions. Is that how it works for you when you feel or when you get these images?
Sure, yeah, I can what's kind of weird, because like when the gift first started, I could actually see things, like pictures, like in the left corner of my eye. But now I can actually see them straight on. I can pick up a person's personality, what they look like, what they're wearing. I can tell, if they died in the summertime, in the wintertime. I can tell if, like if it was a heart attack, I can actually, because the area for me is very dark where the
Yeah.
heart is,
Yeah.
and like I can tell they have problems with their heart. I can actually, sometimes I can see them in a wheelchair in a hospital bed, so a lot of times I can kind of like figure out how they died just by where I see them at. But yeah, and there's times too that, excuse me, when I'm doing readings, I'll get really emotional along with the person I'm doing a reading on, and here they're crying, I'm crying. I'm like, well, I myself am perfectly fine, so I have no idea why I'm crying. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
it's just kind of weird, because it's like, this isn't my tears, this isn't my feelings, this isn't, So, but yeah, I can definitely absorb that energy. A lot of times too, like, when I've helped the police with missing person cases, there was one in Stevens Point. I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. All they had to do was show me a picture on the internet, and I can actually start seeing images of where he is. Because what had happened is this, well, I say kid because he's probably in his 20s. He had went to college, and I don't know, an hour and a half away from here, and he went missing, and they did like a 36-hour search, and they had ended up calling it off. Then this friend of mine, she called me and she said, Kathy, she goes, you're a medium. She said, why don't you see if you could pick up where this kid is, because the police can't find him, the parents can't find him, you know what I mean? Like, nobody can find him. And so then I told her, I said, Lindsay, show me a picture, because I gotta see, And so she showed me a picture, and then images start coming to me. And then she put me on a three-way with a sergeant down there, and he had a detective, I guess, and he had talked to me. He was asking me different questions, like, I said, I see the city is behind him, I said, I don't think he's in the city. And I said, I see this row of round white lights, or, like street lights, And then I said, I can tell he's by the water. I talked to at 12:30 that day, and then I talked to the dispatcher, and then I talked to the detective, and we started talking at 12:30 that day. At 1:15, they pulled this kid's body out of the water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And now this was after they called off the 36-hour search. Now I don't know where this area that I don't know the bridge or whatever that because what it was, I guess he went out for his 21st birthday and he got intoxicated and he walked into the water. And because when you're so intoxicated, don't know what you're doing. Because like the police officer asked if I thought he was in the water. I said I can't. That part I can't see.
Yeah,
I can just see that he's not. That the city was behind him, and then sure enough, they pulled him out of the water. But I mean, part of me, I saw the parents, and it looked like their heart was broken. But yet, the other part too is I was at least able to give them closure that they knew where this kid was. But the thing is, I mean, I still don't, like I said, I still don't know what bridge or what college or. I think I went to the dentist there once, and that was about it. But
actually, that's the thing that some people, well, likely skeptics, feel that what your gift is an exact science. It isn't. It from another medium we talk to, images just come. He cannot
right,
explain them logically, but images and words and feelings, they
right.
just come, and you just have to say them or write them down. But you don't like what you said. I'm not sure where it was, but this is what I saw, right?
It's kind of like charades. It's like somebody shows you this picture and this picture and this picture. Well, then you got to try to put these pictures together. And, but the thing is, though, like one thing I stopped doing with readings is like they would show me an image and then I would try and figure out what this image was, and then a lot of times I'd say, okay, well, I see, say, an image of a horse,
Yeah.
and like, did he have a horse? And they'd be like, no, he didn't have a horse, but he had a picture of a horse, So what I do now, if I do a reading, I'll say, okay, well, he's showing me a horse. I don't know what
Yeah.
way. I don't know if it's a physical horse. I don't know if it's a picture. I don't know if it. So now I just kind of like, I don't try to figure it out. I just say, okay, this is what he's showing me. I don't know what it means to me. To me, I don't know what it means, but you should be able to figure it out. You know what I mean? It must mean something to him and to you, and
Because that's what they're showing you. That's what they're giving to you.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because I don't try to figure it out no more, because I'm always wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and they'll judge you for it, and they'll say, "Oh, it's
exactly.
yeah."
Exactly.
To the story of the exorcist, he told us that for some reason this year he's getting a lot of inquiries and people asking for help for seeing spirits in their houses and seeing spirits all around. And he's saying that for some reason the frequencies are mixing up this year. So what he's saying is that spirits are of a different frequency, angelical beings are of a different frequency, the evil elements are from a different frequency, and for some reason they're mixing up this year. Have you experienced that also? That
Oh, sure. Sure. Well, but actually, I have a kind of like logical explanation for
okay,
that.
yeah,
Okay, because the thing is, okay, now with this COVID, everybody was scared. I'm
yeah,
afraid, afraid, afraid. Okay, when even, I mean, it's not even, you have to be afraid of a spirit.
yeah,
But the thing is, this whole world was in fear, a fear panic. Okay, now the spirits, the dark spirits are actually below us.
mm,
But the thing is, when everybody's afraid, those dark spirits can actually come up and they can actually do, raise havoc on everybody. So basically, when the world is afraid, that's the spirit's feeding ground.
mm-hmm,
That's like, ooh, I'm gonna start chewing on this fear here.
yeah,
That's why a lot of this stuff is getting, getting so crazy. A lot of times I think, maybe the demonic entities were released, and that's what all this craziness is. But like I said, also too, I mean, everybody's afraid of dying of COVID, but this fear is actually drawing a lot of these dark energies, and they're having a good old party. You know what I mean? They're
yes,
like, oh, fear, it's like potato chips for us, chewing, you know. But I actually think that's a big part of it. Because the thing is, a lot of people that actually have faith in God have less fear. I don't have. I actually never feared COVID from day one. I don't fear, because I know where I'm going. I know, there's another side. You know what I mean? Like I don't have, the fear that a lot of people do. In some ways, I've probably been somewhat untouched from, what I mean? Like I haven't had too many negative things happening to me because, I just don't have any fear.
So can you tell us about that, of you experiencing or seeing the hell or that area?
Oh, um, I've seen the lower levels. Yeah. I've actually seen some lower, like the lower levels at different times. It's almost like an astral plane. And I mean, there's times that, I mean, like I said, I've seen both. What I've seen of hell, like a lot of times, say if I astral plane, down to hell, my spirit guide will actually tell me you have to tone down that light, tone down the light within inside you, because these spirits can actually see that light. So they're like, if you're down here, you have to actually, you have to squash that light because, yeah, or like kind of like putting this like invisible blanket. You know how that on Harry Potter he's got the invisible cloak or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird though too. Sometimes when I'm actually down there though, even if I'm squashing that light, I can actually see, one of the lower level spirits looking at me face to face, and then it's like, but I mean, it's weird. From here down to hell, there's different levels, and not all of it's pure burning hell. A lot of it's just some of these levels are very dark.
Mm-mm.
I don't know if it is like purgatory but I mean, not all of it's like straight fire and brimstone.
Yes.
Some of it's just very, very dark levels.
You mentioned that you have personal experience with Jesus.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure if you're okay to share your experience with.
Well, actually, one experience I had, I mean, I wasn't being attacked by a entity or anything, but actually the first time I saw Jesus was I was 7 years old. And, I grew up in the Catholic Church, and, we had this little statue that you tip your finger in there and then you do the sign of the cross and things
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I'm laying in bed one day or while sleeping, and then all of a sudden I looked over and I actually seen Jesus standing next to my bed.
Mm-mm.
And I launched, I mean, I was so excited, and I launched to him and I went into his arms and I was talking to him and, like mile a minute, and I was making him laugh and, being goofy kid I was. And, I would tell him how I would dip my finger into that little water thing statue that we
Yes.
have and do the sign of the cross and stuff. And it was like an awesome visit. And then I asked him, I said, can I wake my sister up? Because I said, I want her to meet you too. And he shook his head. He said, no. And next thing I know, I was in my bed. And the next morning I woke up and I'm like, where is he? Where did he go? And I know that I wasn't sleeping yet. I know I was kind of, like in between awake and sleep state. And but what's kind of weird? Sylvia Brown seen her spirit guide at 7. Edgar Casey seen an angel at 7 years old. And I seen Jesus at 7 years old.
Mm.
It's like, that's kind of weird, like they haven't seen supernatural things at 7 years old, that is kind of weird. But no, like as far as the Bible too, I noticed like I watched a lot of NDE movies and stuff, and the thing is that a lot of people at the NDE, they are spiritual, they have their faith in God and stuff. But they said a lot of times they have trouble following religion too. But and I do too. I mean, the Bible is a good guide, but I mean, there's a certain part in the Bible that says that mediums are
Yes.
yeah, that, like we're I don't know, talking to the devil, or like there's a part in the Bible saying that mediums are are a bad thing. But I'm thinking to myself, I was a 2-year-old child when I first found out I had the gift. It's like, what did I do as a 2-year-old child to be evil?
Yes,
what I mean?
that's true. That's
Like,
true.
what I'm saying? Like, what did I ever do? I know, like I said, the Bible is a good guide, but I think in a way, like, because the thing is, when I think of Jesus, I think of freedom. I
Yeah.
think of, I mean, within limits, but with the Bible, it tries to make you be, um, like suffocating, you can't do this and you can't do that and you got to do this. And, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, so I have a lot of hard time following it. I mean, there's times that, if I can't explain something, that I see, in the spirit world or whatever, I will try to go to the Bible, and it does help me out with, guiding things.
Hmm.
So I mean, I'm not saying like, toss the Bible or anything,
Yeah.
because I mean, it is a good guide, but it to try to follow it like word for word, and I mean, I'd feel so suffocated I couldn't help it. I have to be me. That I can't be something that I'm not. I just can't do it.
Yeah. Another question. The sensitives and the psychics here in the Philippines, because we have a very rich culture with regards to elementals. I'm not sure if you have that same experience, because here in the Philippines, people actually have experienced. I mean, it sounds. I'm not sure if to you if it will sound weird, but dwarves with tree elementals with all kinds of elementals from fire and wind elementals, and especially there in Wisconsin. I'm not sure if you've seen. We've talked to people who can see spirits but cannot see elementals. But again, Sam is different, but he can see spirits and elementals. So have you experienced elementals? Because looking at the weird things in Wisconsin, you have these things called hunchies.
Right.
They're little people
So now,
near Muskego. Is that correct?
uh, so now, are elementals like dark spirits or
Actually, they're earth spirits. The way we see it, they're earth spirits. Uh,
earthbound
they're,
spirits?
they are spirits of the trees.
I don't know if there is such a thing, or if you guys believe it in the Western countries, but in the Philippines, we consider spirits as a, how do you call it, as a, not just human spirit,
Yeah, not just humans.
but not just human spirit, but you know spirits that has roamed the earth more than human did. So we have spirits that is connected with fire. We have spirits that's
Mountains.
connected to the mountains. Other creatures, for example, like mermaids, are considered as water spirits. But do you guys have that in Wisconsin?
Because I'm seeing a lot of things like they consider them physical manifestations are monsters in the ocean, like in Lake Pepin. You have the Pepi, again the hunchies. You have gnomes in Five Field, a rock tossing gnome. So again, throughout the world, we've talked to people in Denmark, in Amsterdam. The same characteristics pop out. So I have a theory also that Bigfoot, the Bigfoots you see, the Bigfoots that are seen. I'm not saying you've seen them, but the Bigfoots in that are seen are actually three elementals, because the description for Bigfoots are tall, hairy beings. Here in the Philippines, we have a thing called the capre that is a tree elemental. It is tall, it is hairy, and it sits atop a tree or is situated near a tree. So I'm not sure if you've experienced something like that over there.
I yeah, well, I mean, I have heard of like Bigfoots. I think like in the southern part of the state by La Crosse or whatever. I mean, I've never really seen anything like that, but I have actually had a lot of UFO sightings. One time, my mom was a friend of hers that had the haunted house there. My mom and us kids were going to house, and we got by this, they call it Hammond's Bridge, and we got by Hammond's Bridge, and my mom looked up and there was a UFO up there, and she had actually seen beings inside the windows of the UFO. She had actually seen the outline of these, aliens,
And this
and
is your mom, right?
it was my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and she was, kind of like screaming at us to look up, and we were all looking up, and we did see like a round craft, and then we get by house, and she's all shook up, and she's telling what she's seen, and because they say that a lot of these UFOs actually do follow the rivers, and that's kind of their guides, I guess. And excuse me, but I remember saying, we had to stay by Sandy's house till like 11 o'clock that night, so that my dad would be home from work, because my mom didn't want to leave house until until my dad was home from work, because she's like, I'm not stepping out of here until I know I know your dad's home. And but I actually did see something really odd. My grandparents, they had lived like a couple miles from where this Hammond's Bridge was, and I seen this large, almost like Earth-like sphere, and it was radiating light. It was like round and just like the Earth. But the thing is, this thing was, I could see like a top of it over the really tall pine trees that we have here. And then I could, then it was only like a couple feet off the ground, but it looked like it was completely like a round Earth, but illuminated with light. And I'm driving past and I'm scared. I'm like, holy crap. And, I'm driving as fast as I can. And, and I've never seen something like that before. I thought I was going to die. I thought this thing's going to kill me. Something's going on. It didn't seem paranormal. It seemed otherworldly though. But the thing is, like I said, it was only a couple feet off the ground, a perfect circle, and just slightly over the tops of these tall pine trees. And then I was talking to my aunt, it didn't hurt me, obviously. And, I got out of there, and then I was talking to my aunt, because she grew up right in that area. And I was telling her, I said, I'd seen this big, huge, almost like Earth ball illuminating thing. And, these pine trees are, they're extremely tall. I don't know exactly how tall they are, but they're tall.
Yeah.
And, I was describing this thing, and my aunt's like, yep, I seen the same thing. Yep, I seen the same thing. I was like, holy cow, because, and I was scared because I've never seen something like that. And I have no idea what it was. I still don't know what it is. But yeah, no, we had a lot of UFO, because we lived next to the Wolf River. We had a lot of UFO sightings. You'd look up in the sky, and then you'd be looking at something blinking.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, it just take off in light speed.
Yeah.
I believe in all of that.
Actually, the more we delve into the paranormal, understanding the paranormal, this was brought open to us by that light worker we talked to. The bridge between the paranormal and extraterrestrials is very thin, actually. It appears that, you've mentioned UFO, so you believe there are extraterrestrial beings also, of course.
Oh yeah, I had a vision one. Oh, speaking of that, I had a vision one time that I was astroplaning or something, and I know I wasn't sleeping. I was probably in the zone again.
Yeah.
But in this vision, people and aliens, I guess the Greys or whatever, they're actually sitting side by side in like a stadium, and they were waiting on people to talk, to speak. But they were side by side. We weren't afraid of them like we would be now. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I don't know, because it's a vision of it, so I don't know if they're all deceased or but see, like you were talking about with the remote viewing, I have a touch of that too. When I met my husband, he had told me to describe. Hang on a minute. Where was that you wanted me to describe? Well, why don't you come in here over a minute? He wanted me to describe old post corral at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, I think.
Yeah.
Well, come here. Would you mind if you tell you about it, or?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, this is my husband.
Hello.
Carter.
Hello.
Yeah. Well, so okay, what happened that night?
You described Old Post Corral, Fort Sill. How it looked in the 1880s, which has been preserved.
Yeah.
But she described it down to perfect detail.
Yeah.
Without having seen it before?
She's never been there.
Never been there. So.
Same thing with my motor pool at Fort Hood, Texas.
I described that too.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember. Yeah.
you're very lucky, Kathy, to have a husband that actually does believe you, because there are a lot of people, or a lot of people that would just dump everything out just because they don't believe it.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's had enough. His first wife was in Oklahoma, and she had a lot of strong abilities too. So, and then I think he has a touch of it too. He got sent, he got stationed. Where was it? And you knew exactly where to go.
Fort Sill.
He was at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and he knew exactly, like, say, and he just got there, and they would say, well, were you in the hospital, like, where's the hospital or whatever? And he could go, well, you got to turn right and turn left, and I know the hospital's right there, and he never seen the hospital before, so,
It was my first time at Fort Sill.
Yeah, so it wasn't probably his first time at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, so.
A particular gift of psychics and mediums that we've heard actually, is intuition, a very strong intuition. So again, that sounds like he has strong intuition. You do too also.
Yeah.
For you to be able to go there and see things. For remote, with regards to remote viewing, have you seen things or done remote viewing for past, meaning going back in time? Because we heard this story before of a guy who just went to this building, and then he suddenly, a sensitive guy, suddenly he sees the building maybe 80 years back, because when he got there he could see a stream of water. It was like he was transported. Yeah.
Sure, I can look at sometimes go, look at an older building, and then I can start smelling the smells that there was at one time, like, if they used wood smoke, or, like 50 years ago, or I can start absorbing the energy of what it used to look like, or, like I said, start seeing spirits. But yeah, I used to have that a lot when I was younger. I don't know if I really have it as much now, but so many places, everything's new. They're tearing down so many old things, and they're building new stuff. But I know when I was a kid, I would have that. It was almost like I was stepping, into 50 years ago, and then I could see that things that, and even now, like, say we were driving down the road. This is when my mom was still alive. Her and I were driving down the road, and I was telling my mom, I said, okay, I said, every time I look to the left, I swear to God, I see like a small old cabin, painted white. And that kind of was weird, because usually, cabins that aren't painted white, it was like a white house, I guess. Cabins are usually a log cabin in the wood, brown, but what I mean, they're not usually painted, but anyway, so this was modernized, so they had put, siding on or whatever. And I told my mom, I said, every time I look to the left, I always see this small house painted white, and then, there's a door in the window, and I described it. And she goes to me, she says, she said that, I think it was her uncle had actually lived in that house, and that house was torn down.
Mm-hmm.
So I was seeing a house that was not there. I mean, it was not physically there anymore. I was seeing the memory of the house. And like, too, like, I'll go past certain areas, and I'll be like, I could tell there was a house that was there, in a farm that was there. I can just pick it up. It's just I can pick up on memories,
That's an ability some psychics would tell us also, that when they go to a place, they know how old it is. When they go to a house, they kind of know how old it is, similar to what you're saying, that you could feel it and see it and, again, smell it for a certain degree.
Yeah. Now with Sam, I mean, my husband has helped me a lot with the gift. And, like I said, I was trying to kind of hide there for a while, and he's like, no, you gotta face this, so he helped me a lot with that. He turned, because I mean, who knows? I mean, if I would have kept trying to hide away, who knows what would have happened. So he brought me out of my shell with that, and so he did turn my life around with that. And then too, like, when I would start, with readings, I'd be like, okay, you guys are gonna think I'm crazy, but this is what I see next to you, and things like that. And because part of me did think I was going crazy, But then all of a sudden, when I kept hitting on everything they were saying, or like when I say something and they'd be like, "Yeah," and da da da, then I dropped the. You're gonna think I'm crazy because obviously I'm not, and I was able to carry it through. So and then I just got more sure of myself over time.
Another person joined us in the call. It's her name is Liz. Actually, she also sees spirits, and she told us one time that she actually went to a psychiatrist just to check because she felt that she was going crazy because she could not explain what she was seeing. And it's very nice that to have a supportive partner to understand, because again there are stories of some people who their partners don't believe. I mean, they just laugh it off, and
Right.
I mean,
Right.
they don't accept it.
I know I went to a psychiatrist too. With my daughter had told her that we were both mediums, and I was like, oh, here comes um what is it, schizophrenia or something like that. That oh geez, no, I don't need a diagnosis like that, And so then finally, I just looked at the psychiatrist and I said, that we're mediums, and that I've helped the police and things like that. And I thought she was going to come back at me with some kind of diagnosis, And she goes, nope. She goes, I have it too. So I was like,
Oh,
great. Yeah, she would have kind of like deja vu, where she'd see something before it happened. So now if somebody says, "Have you ever gone to a psychiatrist?" I'd be like, "Yep." you know?
an open-minded psychiatrist at that.
Right, right,
Here in the Philippines, when we have possessions, when possessions happen, when they bring in a priest, actually we talk to someone who experienced this, that they actually bring a psychologist first. So the psychologist diagnoses first if the possession is an actual possession or it's just a mental issue, because they have to diagnose that first before they proceed with an exorcism. So that's what happens also here when they have to diagnose. But again, this is behind closed doors because
right.
yeah.
Well, I think they have that here too. I think that like for here, I mean, they kind of look more towards the medical part of it. Like, is there something physically causing these problems, or is there something psychological? Like is it physical that's causing it, or is it psychological that's causing it? Um, you know, like I don't know. It seems like our country's not that open to demonic possession. I mean, like you'll hear people talking about it. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't seem. It seems more medical. Like is it physical? Is it psychological? I mean, I'm sure that they do perform them here. But it's just you never really hear about it too much, over here. So, but I think a lot of it's because they're, very sciencey and very, I mean,
Yeah, logical thinking, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of scientists don't believe there's even a God, or, what I mean, things like that. It's like if they can't feel it or hear it, or, then they don't, a lot of times they don't feel that it exists, so.
But when you have to do a sworn statement in court, you have to swear by the Bible, right? You acknowledge
Yeah,
God, but you can acknowledge the devil.
yep, and that's what kind of gets to me too, because like I'll watch some shows where, that these pastors are praying, saying, "Oh, God told me this and God told me that." Well, it's kind of like, okay, God is a spirit, right? But the thing is, if any other spirit is trying to tell a medium something, well, then that's bad. And it's like, I don't know, God's a spirit and he's talking to you, so why can't this spirit talk to me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind of what do you call it, double sided or
Yes, yes.
double,
Double standards. Have you experienced something scary with regards to demonic entities?
yeah, in my car. Well, because I went back to school for well, actually a couple. Well, actually that one's a better one. In my car, I had gone back to school for a CNA. Got I had to do the clinicals, and I got my car. Actually, I had a couple of experiences with that, and then all of a sudden I'd seen a demon, a dark spirit of a young girl sitting in my back seat. I looked up in the mirror and I'm like, oh, holy crap, and I'm I'm sitting there, I'm speeding, trying to get away from her, and then all of a sudden it dawned on me, I'm like, she's in my car,
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna, the speed is not gonna help me whatsoever, and but yeah, she kind of, and finally, I tried to do my face and to protect me and stuff like that, and but yeah, no, she kind of hung in that car until I ended up junking it out a couple years later. She didn't really do anything. She just kind of stared at me a lot, and you know what I mean? Or like if I'd be alone at night, I could feel her back there. But then too, we also had there was a dark spirit, and I actually got a picture of him in our old house. I was like staining our floors because we had 100-year-old house with the wooden floors, and I was staining the floors, like scrubbing them and staining that I stained them after. And I was, like everybody was upstairs sleeping, and I was downstairs, and we had a dog at the time, and I was, sitting on the floor, scrubbing the floor, and all of a sudden I heard the dog just yike. The dog was sleeping, and then he just yiked, and then I asked him, I said, "What's the matter, Heinz?" And then not even a couple minutes later, this dark energy moved in on me, and I could feel it just my head started shaking. I could feel it like covering my face, and my head started shaking. I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. I'm done. I'll resume in the morning or whatever. So, but yeah, they've come after me enough times. So
It's because of probably the again, if you have you talked to other mediums and asked them how you emit your light or your energy, because apparently evil spirits or evil entities also are attracted to that light. It's like, oh, who's this powerful thing that so they're attracted and they
well, they get angry with the light. They don't like that light. You know what I mean? And I think too, like they're very angry too because a lot of dark spirits they like to trap the nicer spirits basically, and then a lot of mediums try to cross over the nicer spirits, and that has made the dark spirits mad. I know that's kind of what I went through in Clintonville, or when I lived in the last house that we lived in, because I was steadily crossing the spirits over, and it seemed like it actually got the main dark spirit mad because I was taking his toys away, kind of.
yeah, yeah.
He couldn't control them because they were gone.
There have been stories, we've heard stories of they're saying they're fallen angels. They're like tall beings, and they're hooded, and they usually stay in areas that have had a lot of deaths. And again, that's the story that they feed on the fear, the sadness in an area. So I'm not sure if that's similar to what you've experienced when you were moving spirits to the light. That entity that you encountered, was it something like that or totally different?
I didn't see it wearing a hood or anything, but I mean, I did feel its anger, and I did see its outline, and we have like we call them energy implants here too.
Mhm.
Like a lot of times when a person will pass on, they said that sometimes dark spirits or energy implants will take their place. So we have what they call energy implants. I'm trying to think. There's other spirits too that there's some spirit that you can't get rid of them out. You can't rid them out of your house. I can't remember what they were. Um, they weren't energy implants, but it was another dark spirit that we have a lot of different ones. I know when I was in when we still lived in the last house we were in, I went outside and I looked to my right and I saw a dark entity. I
Mhm.
looked to my left, I saw a dark entity, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting back in the house. You know what I mean? I'm not messing with this at all.
You mentioned as we're closing, you mentioned that you wanted to start a YouTube channel to again talk about your experiences. Are there any particular topics you wanted to talk about? I mean, we could probably start it off here. I mean, just to jumpstart your your.
Yeah. Well, it's just that, I mean, I think some of it was just kind of like you get tired of hearing people go, "Oh, mediums they're fake and they're just trying to, drain people's money and they're charlatans," and it's like, we are real, and that, that's another thing too. This Speaking of that, because a lot of people are like, well, why don't you write a book about your experience, or, or do a video about it or whatever. And I said, if I would write a book, it'd be like, yes, we do exist. But part of the reason why is because went up to the Iron Mountain VA, and like a week before we went to the VA, I was hearing my spirit guide say, "You're going to meet another medium." And then I'm like, okay, cool. Well, we more the merrier, he said I was going to meet another medium, and then I'm like, okay. So then I took my husband and I went up to Iron Mountain to the VA, and then there was a guy. He was sitting there talking about how, basically like he can find, you know, find the missing people too, like I did. And he was telling some guy about it, and the guy was, started to laugh and like this, he acted like this guy was crazy, and
Yes.
then he got up and he left and he walked away from him. And it was just like, I mean, I'm not always, I like to approach people, but sometimes, I wasn't sure about it either, because I mean, a lot of veterans have problems, after wars and things like that. And
Yes.
but I just felt drawn to him, and then I sat down and I was talking to him, and he was saying, and actually he gave me his book. His name, I believe, is Clarence Thibodeau, and he had wrote a book about his being psychic and his experiences and stuff. And then he was saying that, even though he has kind of this gift that he can find people, he said that, mediums, they're just the real, the ones doing readings and stuff, they're just kind of fake. And, like, kind of like, not, because he said my wife and I, we went to a medium, and I guess there was like a huge age in their gap in their, marriage. Like, I don't know, she was 20 years older or something. But anyways, the medium was telling him that, he wasn't going to get married and stuff. And they both had wedding rings on, But anyway, so then I ended up doing a reading on him. And I said, okay, I said, this dear wife, I said, did she have, I see rings all over her hands, like all of her fingers have rings on. And I said, did she wear a lot of rings? And come to find out, this woman was actually rich. And she dolled up with the rings. And I said, she's telling me about her son. And he's like, oh yeah, she does have a son. And but I mean, like, I was hitting on a lot of different things, And then he looks at me and he puts his hand kind of on, his like index finger underneath his nose, and he's sitting there kind of like, huh. He goes, you really do exist. And I'm like, yeah, we really do exist.
Yes.
So that's why, like, if I'd ever do a book, it would be like, yes, we do exist. But and it could help other people, because like I said, they're trying to, I have trouble trying to figure out things. I mean, it's kind of like driving a car. Even if you've got your hands on both wheels, both of the, both the sides of the steering wheel, you're still, you can still veer here and there, and you got to pull back. So even though you can keep going, you still have a lot to learn.
That's true. To close, I just want to ask again. Sorry, we didn't talk about too much about your helping the police, but in the different cases you've helped, have there been times that, again, you talked about that boy who passed away on the river? Did that boy reach out to you and have a message, or are there other cases that are very interesting, or you would like to tell us?
Well, I mean, he did ask me if he was dead, and I said, yeah, they pulled your body out of the water, and he was like, yoo-hoo, and I could see him kind of flying around, like, like, it was awesome for But what's kind of weird though is, like, when I'd seen, because he had a hat on because it was winter time, and I never knew he had red hair until I saw a picture of him later on.
Yeah.
I mean, because he had a hat on, and
Yes.
for whatever, because I mean, a lot of times I can usually, see, features of people. Like, sometimes I can even see them if they wear those glasses that turn into sunglasses,
Yes.
tinting glasses. I can even tell if they're wearing that. But yeah, but like I said, I didn't realize he had red hair until, I see the picture of him, because I seen him with the hat on yet, which that's, see, that's how he ended up dying, because when he, it was winter time and he walked into the water and hypothermia probably
Yes.
took over fast, so, but yeah, he he was dead. So,
Yes. Are there any other cases that you help with that are unusual or where the spirits really help find find their bodies or something like that?
um, well, I can a lot of times pick up. It's kind of like as long as because there was a recent case that they wanted me to try and help with. The only thing is, and I could be wrong on this, but as long as they're kind of like spirit and body stay together,
Mm-hmm.
I can usually lock on to where they're at.
Mm.
But a lot of times, like when I've, like this, they've taken me past like where there was murders, people were murdered, and then all of a sudden I feel like somebody's choking me or,
Yes, yes.
things like that. So, I mean, I can kind of, well, like into like this one murder victim, all I did was walk down the road, and like I said, they found her body 2 years before we moved here, and I didn't know her, but it was like she just homed right in on me, and you know what I mean? All I have to do is either look at a picture or drive past,
Yeah.
and it'll lock on.
It'll come to you.
Yeah, and it's almost like it grabs me. You know what I mean? Like, because I've gone past where there was like, that people were murdered or whatever, and I can actually feel something pulling, like by my solar plexus, and I can actually feel like they're grabbing me, like I'm right here, or it's kind of weird though. It's I mean, like usually I don't mind, but it's like when you feel like you're being physically pulled,
Yes.
Yeah. You're like, great, wonderful. But I understand though too, because I mean, not everybody, has this gift, and if they can see that I'm different, from other people, or that I can probably try and help, of course they're going to try and get a hold of me,
Kathy, thank you very much. I'm not sure if you have questions for us. I'll just ask the other people here. Do you have questions, Liz or Sam?
I'm okay. I'd love to hear more about you. I hope that you reach out to us and we can reach out to you again once that your YouTube channel is up.
Well, I don't know if I want to. Well, I just wanted to try to
Share. Yeah.
just do a YouTube channel and see how it goes, So, just try it,
Good luck. Good luck with that, Kathy.
Alrighty. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Kathy, for giving us the time to share your stories. I think you're one of the lucky ones to have such a supportive husband, partner who regards your abilities and gifts. Not everyone gets that support, honestly. If one of you listening now is married or has a partner who has abilities, I would request that you be more understanding of their abilities. It is nerve-wracking enough for them. Your doubts and skepticism do not help the anxiety it naturally brings. You don't have to believe, you just have to listen. I did some research on Wisconsin before talking with Kathy, and I found out that Wisconsin had a lot of cryptids and weird stuff. So if you're from Wisconsin and you have a few stories about the creatures there, hit us up on Discord or email us at paranormalsph@gmail.com. The link to the Discord server is down in the show notes. I would like to thank our Patreon sponsors. Thank you. Maraming salamat. They're Sunny, Pat, and Jay. We totally appreciate your support. To the listeners, if meron kayong gustong pasalamatan na nakakalabas pa rin tayo regularly every week, pasalamat kayo kay Sunny, Pat, and Jay. So, ang laking tulong talaga, promise. If you want to be a Patreon sponsor as well, baka naman, check the link in the show notes. It really helps me produce this podcast. The Paranormal Podcast is engineered and produced by F90 Productions. If you have the time, please rate and review our show on your preferred podcast platform. If you can share it with like-minded friends, this helps us spread the word to others who might be experiencing things they cannot explain. Thank you for listening. Andyan pa ba kayo? Mga ka-LL, there pa ba you? Medyo busy ulit kaya iksian ko lang tong pagpag-portion natin. So para sa mga ka-LL dyan, loyal listeners, di ba? Iba yung ibig sabihin ng LL kayo naman eh. Pero latak listeners na rin. Update ko na lang kayo sa status ng interviews. Gaya nung sinabi ko last week, medyo bumagal kami ng interviews kasi na-realize nga namin, matagal na namin na-realize yon. Pero ako recently, nung medyo napukpok sa mga interview, medyo, yun nga, bigla ako nagkasakit-sakit sa katawan. So, hindi ko alam kung related yun or whatever. Pero, mas naging maingat lang. So, recently, medyo huminay-hinay sa interviews. Pero, yun nga, mas mabuti ng safe, diba? So, sa mga mag-reach out dyan, I hope LL yung mga mag-reach out, I apologize in advance kung sa chat or sa Discord muna tayo mag-usap. Kasi, hindi naman sa winaway namin, ina-assess ko lang muna kung, alam niyo naman, takutin ako, ina-assess ko lang muna kung safe pa siya usapin, okay ba, wala naman mararamdaman. So, naninigurado lang. So, I hope you understand. Pero, huwag kayong mag-alala. As of this recording, I'm checking now, meron tayong episode every week for Tuesday, every week until July next year. So, sinabi ko naman yun before, hanggat may episodes, maglalabas tayo. Pag wala nang nag-decide kumausap sa atin, yun na yun. 'Di ba? So, marami na rin naman tayo. So, target ko siguro, I'll target 100. Tignan natin, sa 100 after nun, kung may makausap pa tayo, sige. Pero kung wala na, at least naka 100 episodes tayo, 'di ba? So, madami pa talaga as of now. Hirap lang talaga makahanap ng time i-edit. So, thank you sa lahat ng loyal listeners, aka latak listeners. Naway manalo kayo lahat sa loto. #LL